Welcome to this explainer. Today we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating journey, looking into the historical and religious story of Qaum-e-Loot in the light of the Quran and the Ahadith of Prophet Muhammad. But we're going to view it through a totally different lens than you might be used to. We're bringing together three entirely different things: an ancient scriptural text, a barren geological site that you can literally go visit today, and some absolutely breathtaking, and maybe even a little bit unnerving, scientific breakthroughs from 2023 and 2025. As we go through this, I want you to keep an eye out for the thread connecting all of these pieces. It's an incredible story about human history, natural limits, and modern ambition. So here is our game plan for today. We are going to lay out these three distinct realities right next to each other. Now, I'm not here to force a specific conclusion on you or tell you exactly what to think. We're just going to let the facts, the history, and the evidence speak entirely for themselves. We've got the religious history from the Quran and prophetic Hadith, the hard archaeological evidence from the ground, and peer-reviewed scientific journals. Let's just look at the facts and see what kind of picture they paint. All right, let's set the historical stage. Picture this. It's roughly between 2000 and 1800 BCE, right smack in the middle of the Bronze Age. We're looking at the region of Sodom, which was located near the borders of modern-day Jordan and Israel. Back then, historical and religious texts described this area as incredibly fertile. It was this massive, thriving agricultural and trade hub, supporting a huge population. In fact, Islamic traditions and the Ahadith of Prophet Muhammad often emphasize how this sheer abundance and extreme wealth eventually blinded the people living there, leading to a really unprecedented arrogance. So Hazrat Loot, who was the nephew of Prophet Abraham, was sent by God to guide the people of this super prosperous region. But, as we know, it all comes to a very sudden, catastrophic end.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that the Quran cuts right to the absolute core of why Hazrat Loot was sent to this civilization in the first place. It outlines the fundamental sin of Qaum-e-Loot, but it highlights a very specific, crucial detail. When addressing his people, Hazrat Loot asks them, "Do you commit such immorality as no one has preceded you with from among the worlds?" This is key. This wasn't just your standard historical bad behavior. It was an entirely unprecedented act in human history. They were crossing a line that had quite literally never been crossed by any civilization before them.
And honestly, it gets even deeper. Their actions weren't just some private sin happening behind closed doors. It was an open, mocking defiance. When their prophet warned them, their actual response was, "Bring us the punishment of Allah if you should be of the truthful." Just think about how genuinely shocking that is to hear. A society actively, mockingly asking for their own doom. It's absolute rebellion. It's a total defiance of the natural order and divine boundaries, actively challenging the consequences of their unprecedented actions.
So, how did the society react to him over time? Well, Hazrat Loot repeatedly warned his people. He called for purity, he called for obedience to the natural, divine order. But instead of listening, the people just doubled down. Islamic traditions frequently note the immense persistence of prophets when faced with intense mockery, and man, they mocked him relentlessly. In Surah Al-Nam, it's actually recorded that they threatened to expel Hazrat Loot and his family from the city, and their stated reason, literally because his family were a people who kept themselves pure. They had reached a point where purity itself was considered an insult, and their unprecedented transgression had become their proud primary identity.
This brings us right to the tipping point. The Quran gives this highly detailed account in Surah Hud. Angels actually arrive in human form to visit Hazrat Loot, and the mob of the city gathers, attempting to attack his guests. Hazrat Loot tries to stop them, feeling immense fear, but the angels reveal their true identity and deliver a strict divine command. They tell him to take his family and flee in the dead of night, and there is one absolute, non-negotiable rule: let not any among you look back. It's a terrifying, urgent evacuation right before an impending doom.
Okay, now we are going to execute a hard pivot from ancient scripture straight into modern physical reality. Minus 430 meters. That is the exact elevation of the Dead Sea right now, the very site where the ancient cities of Sodom and Gomorrah are believed to have stood. It is literally the lowest point on the surface of the earth. It's not just some geographic anomaly. It's a profound physical scar on the planet.
To really understand what happened to make it sink that incredibly low, consider this insight from the renowned German archaeologist Werner Keller. He writes that the area plunged one day into the abyss through a great earthquake, probably accompanied by explosions, lightning, issue of natural gas, and general conflagration. Geologists actually confirm that the Dead Sea sits right on top of the Great Rift Valley, which is a highly active fault line. It's genuinely amazing to think about. A completely fertile, super prosperous valley just violently swallowed whole by a terrifying geological catastrophe.
And you know what? The ground backs this up completely. When we look at archaeological excavations at Babad Draw and Numera, which are the primary candidates for Sodom and Gomorrah, the evidence is absolutely stark. We're talking sudden, catastrophic ash layers dating right back to the Bronze Age, scattered, burnt human bone fragments, heavily documented layers of sulfur-rich soil. It all points to one clear, undeniable conclusion: an instant, permanent wipeout of an entire population. Life there just stopped.
And the aftermath of this event is astonishing. 33%. That is the staggering salinity of the Dead Sea today. Just to put that into perspective for you, normal ocean water is usually around 3.5%. Because of this extreme, totally unnatural salt content, it is utterly devoid of plant or animal life. No fish, no seaweed, nothing. It is quite literally dead. What was once this fertile, blooming valley of agriculture is today a stark, permanent physical marker of total destruction.
So, the crucial point here is how this connects to our world right now. We've seen the ancient scripture, and we've seen the barren geological sea. Now we are pivoting to the cutting-edge, peer-reviewed scientific laboratories of the modern era. We're moving from an ancient defiance of boundaries to a modern scientific quest to completely bypass the natural biological order. The shift from a historical fault line to a modern laboratory is quite the plot twist, but stick with me here.
Just trace this documented progression in genetic editing over the last few years. In 2018, the world was completely shocked by Chinese researcher He Jiankui, who announced the birth of the first unauthorized CRISPR gene-edited human babies. Then, in 2023, things advanced further in mammals, with the Francis Crick Institute creating bipaternal mice. And by early 2025, the Chinese Academy of Sciences pushed the boundary even further, using CRISPR for bipaternal embryos. The sheer speed of this advancement, this analytical push to alter the fundamental rules of life, is just breathtaking.
Let's zoom in on that 2023 milestone for a second. March 2023, London. Japanese researcher Katsuhiko Hayashi steps onto the stage at the 3rd International Summit on Human Genome Editing and makes a truly groundbreaking announcement. He revealed that his team had successfully breached a biological impossibility. They had achieved something that exists entirely outside the natural order of biological reproduction.
As published in the highly prestigious journal Nature, here's what they objectively accomplished. They took adult cells from a male mouse's tail. They converted those into stem cells. Then, through a highly complex laboratory process, they actually altered those male cells into female egg cells. They then fertilized those artificial eggs with a second male sperm. The result? The birth of 7 baby mice that had 2 biological fathers and absolutely no biological mother. They had entirely bypassed the female reproductive role. But of course, the science did not stop there. Fast forward to January 2025, published in the journal Cell Stem Cell. Researchers from the Chinese Academy of Sciences used CRISPR gene editing to take this even further. They mapped out and literally deactivated something called the imprinting barrier in the genome. They modified sperm to act with egg-like properties, successfully creating bipaternal mouse embryos. Now, it's definitely important to note that the mortality rates were very high here, but the proof of concept was firmly established. The natural biological order of reproduction was technically bypassed. Now, when we place these two realities side by side, the parallels are pretty stunning. On one hand, we have the ancient claim of Qaum-e-Loot, doing what no one has preceded you with from among the worlds. A society whose defining trait was this unprecedented defiance of natural boundaries. On the other hand, we have the modern pursuit of 2025 science, actively using highly advanced genetic editing to bypass the very natural order of biological reproduction itself. The technological methods are totally different, obviously, but the core theme of challenging the fundamental rules of nature, it's strikingly similar.
Which brings us right back to the historical and religious story of Qaum-e-Loot in classical Islamic scholarship. Imam al-Qurtubi, in his famous commentary, notes how uniquely terrifying their punishment was. It was a threefold event. First, the earth was violently turned upside down. Second, devastating stones rained down from the sky. And third, incredibly, every single stone was specifically marked for an individual. This aligns perfectly with the ahadith of Prophet Muhammad, which convey the terrifying precision and severity of divine boundaries being breached. Why such an unprecedented punishment? Because, as the scholars note, the defiance of the natural order was completely unprecedented. And this brings it completely full circle, showing exactly why this matters for us today. The Dead Sea isn't just a piece of ancient trivia or a cool tourist spot. In Surah Al-Ankabut, God explicitly says,
and we have certainly left of it a sign as clear evidence for a people who use reason. That deep, excessively salty, totally lifeless scar at the lowest point on Earth is meant to be a permanent physical marker. It was left behind specifically for those who reflect, who think, and who draw connections between the ancient past and the present day.
So I want to leave you with this provocative final thought. We have the ancient text warning of unprecedented boundary breaking. We have the profound physical, scientific reality of the Dead Sea, a literal dead zone left as a warning. And we have modern science rushing headlong into breaching the most fundamental biological boundaries of life. The Dead Sea is a sign left behind. The question we really have to ask ourselves as a modern society is, are we learning from it, or are we heading in the exact same direction? Think about that. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.